Sonic High School, Chapter 11.
That baby was Espio's,
Said Tails. Tails, being smart, was right. Knuckles had done an Einstein body donation and became Espio and Rouge's baby, but was still Knuckles. Rouge picked the baby up and held him in her other arm because her baby with Knuckles before he became baby was in her other arm.
Now you have two babies to look after, said Tails. Good luck.
Sonic was on the other side of the hall and wished that Tails was talking to him, but Tails was still mad at him, so he was not. Rouge grabbed her two babies and had them both eat from her terrific boobs. She smiled and felt like a mother, and Sonic said what he was thinking and said,
Rouge, you should name your babies. It will be hard to tell them apart if you do not.
Rouge thought that this thought was good. Rouge went over to Espio, who was sitting on the ground looking bad and tired from fighting Knuckles before he became Espio's baby.
Hey, Espio, what should we name our baby that looks like you?
Said Rouge to Espio.
It is still Knuckles, according to Tails, so we should keep his name Knuckles.
Said Espio to Rouge.
Okay,
said Rouge,
and I will name my baby with Knuckles before he became a baby, Knuckles Jr., because I had him with Knuckles before he became a baby, and he looks like Knuckles before he became a baby.
Rouge was happy and walked out of the hall and then out of the school like a bat, and then Espio did the same thing, but in a way that was like a chameleon would instead.
There is one thing that everyone is forgetting, said Sonic. Charmy Bee is still locked up at Knuckles' house. I will go rescue him.
Sonic ran out of the school and to Knuckles' house. Sonic ran into Knuckles' mom on the way to his room in his house.
Knuckles' mom,
said Sonic.
Some things happen and Knuckles looks different. It will be okay, and you will understand soon enough. Please do not worry.
Sonic said this in such a way that Knuckles' mom smiled and kept cooking in the kitchen. Sonic was not just fast, but also very good at relieving people. Sonic also noticed that Knuckles' mom was kind of hot, with solid boobs that she had developed for decades. Sonic went upstairs to Knuckles' room, which was painted all red, just like Knuckles before he became a baby. There was a cage in the corner of the room, and Charmy Bee was in it. Sonic unlocked the cage with the key on Knuckles' desk and opened the cage.
Come on out, Charmy Bee, said Sonic. You are rescued.
Charmy walked out instead of flying out like he always does and said,
Thanks, Sonic. I'm going to go home to prepare for my role in the play that is soon. I'm the lead role.
Sonic forgot about the play because the play was the gayest thing in the school, but it was going to happen even if no one went to watch it. The next day of school happened and Tails was in class with Cream. It was a very difficult science class because Tails was the smartest person in the school and he only took the hardest classes. Cream was in the class because she wanted to be mentally challenged.
We have a test in this class tomorrow,
said Tails to Cream.
It is going to be hard, and I have to study for it to make sure I get a good grade.
Tails always got good grades, but studied anyway. Tails looked at Cream, who was there.
Me too,
said Cream to Tails.
I know I have an idea. Why don't you come over to my house tonight and we can study? Studying with you will help me get a better grade. I just know it.
This idea was the best thing ever to Tails. Tails secretly had a crush on Cream and wanted to feel the body of his sexy friend even though she was Charmy Bee's girlfriend. Cream was a different kind of sexy that was only really sexy to some people, but Tails was one of them.
Okay,
said Tails, sounding more excited than he wanted to.
I will come to your house tonight.
Tails was very smart, but he was not the best at getting with teenage women, so parts of his life like this were a challenge to Tails. It was now this evening, and Tails was getting ready to go to Cream's house. Tails was excited to get closer to Cream, but he was also nervous he might mess it up like a love idiot. He thought about asking Sonic about then, but then remembered he is pissed at him. Then he thought about asking Espio, but Espio was at the hospital getting all of his wounds fixed from being in a fight with Knuckles before he became a baby. Tails wanted to seem like a sexy man to Cream, so he sprayed his dad's he sprayed his dad's colon on himself and So he sprayed his dad's colon on himself and put breath wash in his mouth. Tails smelled good and looked good and went to Cream's house by flying.
I'm waiting for Tails,
said Cream as she sat on her bed in her bedroom studying without Tails. Tails flew into the window.
Hi, Cream. I'm at your house now,
said Tails. Tails sat on her bed, sort of next to her, but not too close to promote sex thoughts.
Let's study,
said Tails.
Wow, before we study, you smell good, Tails.
Cream put her face right up against Tails and smelled hard like the big bad wolf before blowing a house down. Tails laughed all nervously and said,
Do I really? Thanks. I always smell this way. I guess you just notice when you're our home.
Tails did a little wiggle on her bed and pushed her face and body away because he was nervous.
Please, let's study.
Tails and Cream studied for the test for the next hour, and the whole time, Tails could only concentrate on one thing: his growing erection. Tails touched it sometimes while they were studying to make sure it stayed put, and Cream could not see it, but it was getting so big it would pop. It was getting so big it would pop out of place like when the straw in your soda rises up, probably because of the bubbles, and you push it back down, but it just comes back up anyway, so you get iced tea instead. Tails was still the most nervous, but he decided that this was his chance. He would not get another chance as good as this if he did not take it now.
Cream, I have to tell you something!
Screamed Tails to Cream, letting out all his nervousness so he could be smooth like a movie star.
What is it, Tails? Tell me all about it,
said Cream back, looking hot. Tails was not so nervous anymore. Tails said,
Cream, I have lusted after your rabbit genitals since day one. I think you are the hottest woman I have ever been to. I know you're Charmy's girlfriend, but toss him aside and let my penis murder everything inside of you.
Tails took out his penis. Tails took out his penis, and he was so in love that his penis was literally screaming.
Wow, said Cream. I did not know you felt this way about, but I'm glad you do because Charmy B is a total gay.
Cream reached over and grabbed Tails' penis and began to give it a good shake. She loved his boner with her hands and pulled him around the room by his penis like he was a wagon to get him more excited. Tails' penis was so big that it was about to burst, like someone stepping on a tube of Colgate toothpaste. Tails could feel the semen bubbling up inside his penis like Santa going back up the chimney when he was done, and the presents he had left down in the house were Tails' balls. Which were already there, though. Cream was getting hot too. She did not take off her clothes, but Tails could tell she also had an erection. But then, just when things were becoming like one of the porns that Sonic had in his room and his mom let him have, Cream stopped and said,
No, I cannot do this. Not while I'm still boyfriend and girlfriend with Charmy. He may be a fart ass, but we're in a relationship and I need to respect him. I will break up with him tomorrow and then we could do sex.
Cream collected her things together.
I think I am ready for the test tomorrow. Thanks you, Tails.
Oh, man,
said Tails. Tails put his scrotum away and was sad about not getting to ejaculate his dick.
Okay, as long as you promise me your sex.
I promise,
said Cream, and then Cream kissed Tails on the cheek. Tails thought it was cool and flew back home. Sonic High School, Chapter 12. It was a new day, and Sonic woke up from out of his bed and scratched his balls. He could feel the rash on his balls, and it was getting worse than before.
A sickness still ravages my balls.
Said Sonic as he wrote it in his journal that he now had back from Tails when he took it from school after Sonic had given it away to miss his lesson. Sonic was done complaining about his balls and went to school. In history class, he talked to Amy.
Hey, Amy,
said Sonic to Amy.
Hi, Sonic,
said Amy and kissed him hotly like a girlfriend.
What is up?
said Sonic to Amy.
It is awful. I have bad news,
said Amy to Sonic.
That stinks. Do you want to have sex later?
said Sonic to Amy.
No, thank you. Everything is so busy right now,
said Amy to Sonic.
My bad news is that I have to go see the play tonight for a class. Wow, that is unfair,
said Sonic to Amu.
Even the principal even the principal says that the play is super gay. But I guess you have to go. Sorry.
The school play was so gay.
I wanted to know if you would come with me,
said Amy in a way to Sonic that sounded like she was trying to be attractive.
The play will be much better with someone else there. That is the real bad news. I do not want to go near the play, but I will so we can have sex later,
said Sonic back to Amy. Amy kissed Sonic, and so did Sonic to Amy, and they made such a cute, hot couple. Then Sonic and Amy had the rest of the class, and Sonic went to another class thinking about how much it was gonna suck that he has to go to the play tonight. The play was just a bunch of people doing gay things and music like a car full of losers. Sonic was now in a different class where Rouge and Shadow was also in the class. Rouge was with Knuckles and Knuckles Jr. Two like always now.
Hey guys,
said Sonic to them.
Hey Sonic,
said them to Sonic together at the same time to save time.
What is new?
said Sonic to them.
Charmy has been acting really weird and differently lately,
said Shadow in a dark way, which is like him.
He is probably nervous for the play,
said Rouge suggestively.
I wouldn't make any assumptions, but we should keep an eye on him to make sure he is okay,
said Knuckles Jr. Knuckles Jr. turned out to be a really cool baby.
I foresee something strange at the play tonight.
The play is gay, said everyone together, agreeing. Everyone knew it.
How are you and Tails doing?
said Shadow to Sonic.
Tails still hates my body, inside and outside,
said Sonic with almost tears in his eyes, but he was too big and a man for that.
It is so hard to be best friends with someone who hates you and does not want to talk to you.
I know how you say it, said Shadow. A lot of people hate me because I am dark, said Shadow.
But I am not trying to be a supervillain. It is just who I am.
Shadow squinted his eyes at the people around him in a way that is hard to describe and kept going.
I do crimes in the city, but I am not a bad person. You can do bad things and mistakes sometimes and still be a good person, and people would still like you for it, unless you're a really bad person, like Eggman, who is a shit dick. Maybe one day people will see I am a good person, even if dark.
Sonic listened to what Shadow said so powerfully that it was like Sonic wrote down everything on a piece of paper and put it in a special folder and put that folder in a safe place so he could always go back to read it. Then Sonic itched at his balls. His balls were a wreck. That class ended and the rest of school did too, and Sonic went home thinking about how his balls were like two blimps covered in volcanoes that could fit on the blimps and itched as well. When Sonic got to his home, Sonic's mom walked up to him and said,
Sonic, I went to your club. I went to clean your room and saw what you wrote about your cave ball problems. I am worried about your balls and fear it could be a mortal illness, so I made a doctor's appointment. But first we will have dinner. I got more Chinese food because I know how much you liked it last time. Don't read my journal, Mom!
Screamed Sonic. Then Sonic went and ate the food, and just like last time, would you know it, there was a fortune cookie. And Sonic opened it and ate the cookie parts and kept the paper inside to read the magical fortune on the paper. He looked at the paper and read it and said,
What? One man's pubic illness will cause the death of millions.
Some people did not believe what fortune cookies said, but Sonic knew they were magic and were always right. So he was a little worried and wondered what it could mean. Then Sonic went to the doctor. Sonic did not like going to the doctor because he was... Oh boy. Oh no. Sonic did not like going to the doctor because he was Chinese. Like the food Sonic had and made him feel nerves. Sonic went into his doctor room and sat on the chair that the doctor told him to. The doctor took out some papers and looked at them. Hello, Sonic. It has been a while since I last saw you. Sonic's mom. Wow, that's just the name. Sonic's mom tells me you're having a problem with your balls. I'm going to do some tests on you, but first I'm gonna have to look at your papers. I see from looking at your papers that your balls and penis are the biggest in your high school. Good job, Sonic. The doctor said. Sonic appreciated the truth and nodded his head and smiled. It was okay to talk about your penis and balls with the doctor because that is what they do, even if it automatically makes them gay. The doctor made a lot of money, so being gay was probably worth it. Then the doctor started doing tests. Sonic passed all of them awesomely, and even the doctor was surprised at how much Sonic was the best at everything, except being smart, which Tails was the best at, but Sonic was still pretty smart too. Then they got to the last test, which was about Sonic's balls. The doctor took out a test tube and filled it with pieces from Sonic's balls, and he tested them with machines. The machines printed out reports about it, and then the doctor took them and looked at them with his very Chinese eyes. This looks bad, said the doctor, looking at the reports that the machines printed out about Sonic's balls. It looks like you have a big disease.
Uh-oh, what do I do?
Said Sonic to the doctor, really worried about the welfare of his balls. I don't know. This is a legendary disease that only comes around once every 1 million years. No one has ever found a cure for this disease, and what it can do is very bad. This disease will go from your balls to your penis and then up to your brain, and it can kill you eventually. There are other things that it does probably, but I do not know because it is so rare, and you will just have to call me up and tell me what it does when you find out. All I can tell you right now, Sonic, is to keep your balls away from everyone you know. Do not touch them to other people because it will spread, and they will die. And it will spread more, and the whole world may be at stake here. Please be safe. Said the doctor in a calm way, but also scared because it was so serious.
No, but I have to have my first sex with Amy. We were going to do it at the play, which I'm going to do from here,
said Sonic, crying sad and mad and afraid of things. Balls are an important part of sex. Sonic was always so healthy and the fastest person ever, but some things just cannot be stopped, like this ball disease.
Too bad,
said the doctor.
If you do that, it will be awful, and the first person to die will be Amy. You should not want your girlfriend to die.
The doctor was right, but Sonic was still worried about it.
Okay, well, I have to go to the play now,
said Sonic, and ran out with the most nervous feelings that Sonic has ever had. Sonic thought about it, and it was the most important high school drama. What is more important? Health or love? Sonic High School, Chapter 13. A cool car raced through the city streets. Said the car as it went down the big street with lots of other cars on it. The city was filled of buildings with lights and other things like places like McDonald's. Kaba, shouted the car as it as it went back and forth, going in between other cars so it did not have to wait in traffic. The car was playing techno and rock and roll music. Techno is short for technology. Reek, yelled the car, doing a big turn in the city intersection.
Location update on Ultra Chaos Emerald,
said the driver of the car. The car screen blinked to different things and then, in a robot voice, said, beep, boop, Ultra Chaos Emerald getting closer. Shadow looked at the map screen and drove faster towards the red dot. That was where the last Ultra Chaos Emerald was. Beep, 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 said the car in a robot voice as Shadow got closer to the dot while driving his car. It was just around the corner now. Shadow did another fast turn at this intersection and right to where the red dot on the map was. Beep, 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 screamed the car in a robot voice as his car dot and the Ultra Chaos Emerald dot on the map moved into each other, and in the real world, Shadow pulled up to the curb and there was a couple of gangmen.
Thanks, Omega,
said Shadow as he hopped out of the car, which was black and red, and onto the dark city street. He looked... oh boy. He looked at the blacks standing there, and they looked, oh no, and they looked dangerous, but Shadow knew they had the Ultra Chaos Emerald. Shadow took out a gun and pointed at them and said, "Give me the last Ultra Chaos Emerald." And they looked surprised and startled. They checked their pockets, and while they were doing that, the gun became used, and Shadow shot all three of them. They were now dead. Shadow reached into the middle one's pocket and found what he had come for. The last Ultra Chaos Emerald. They were like the regular Chaos Emerald, but more powerful and a secret until they were found out. Shadow hopped back into his car, Omega, the robot car, and said,
I got it. Now I can get one wish to come true. I'm gonna think about what I will use it on before I use it.
Shadow looked at the map and said,
Get me directions to Hamburger Restaurant.
Omega changed some screens and said in a robot voice,
Beep, boop, bop, Hamburger Restaurant. Location found. It is over here.
And Shadow looked at where the dot was. It was right nearby, so Shadow drove there with more loud sounds. Shadow went to the drive-thru and got a hamburger and fries and sat in the parking lot in Omega and ate it.
This is great. I love this place. It is always the place that I love to come to after I finish a crime,
said Shadow darkly. Omega did not need food because he was a robot shaped into a car. Shadow finished eating and threw the garbage into Omega's trash hole, where he turned litter into gasoline, which was useful. Then, Shadow took his penis out.
Hey, Omega, check this out,
said Shadow, laughing as he took his big, neat, hard penis and stuck it in Omega's trash hole.
Unrecognized item in trash hole. Error,
said Omega.
That's my penis, man.
said Shadow. said Shadow to Omega.
Penis, not trash. Not allowed in trash hole,
said Omega to Shadow. Shadow couldn't fit all of his big, strong penis into Omega's trash hole anyway, so he took it out and gave Omega a taste of his balls too. Omega did not recognize Shadow's balls as trash. Did not recognize Shadow's balls as trash either, which was good. And then Shadow put his balls back and started to drive off with his hand still on his penis.
Where's Silver's house?
Said Shadow to Omega while he rubbed really quick and hard on his penis with one hand while his other hand was driving. Omega updated his map and showed where Silver's house was on the other side of the dark city. Shadow kept empowering his penis with his one hand, and he drove faster and faster and more dangerously. Soon his penis was so big he could hardly see in front of him anymore, and he was zigzagging across the street, trying to keep his penis and his car in control. Then he put both of his hands of his on his penis and made it do all sorts of things until it was done, and his penis redecorated the inside of Omega with white curtains.
Just so you know, that's my semen.
Said Shadow to Omega. Omega knew that already. Omega knew that already. Shadow put both of his hands back on the steering wheel and drove faster, but suddenly some loud sounds and flashing lights came up behind him.
Whack, whack, whack. The police is following you,
said Omega. Shadow decided to follow the laws and stopped his car in the street and waited for the police to come over to him. Shadow's penis was still big, though, so he tucked it under his leg on the right, and it stuck up in the middle of Omega, the car, and Shadow put his hand on it. The police came over to the front window of Omega and looked at Shadow inside.
Cool vehicle,
said the police.
Thanks,
said Shadow to the police back.
Okay, do you know that you were breaking the law by going that fast back and forth on the street?
said the police to Shadow, sounding more like Miss Lesson than a real person.
Yeah, I do,
said Shadow, and he patted his hand on his penis in the middle of the front of the car. Sir, please take your hand off the gear stick in the middle of the car right now, said police to Shadow. Shadow looked at the police and laughed and said,
That's not the gear stick. That is my penis.
And drove off before the police could say anything or really even react at all.
You have broken another law,
said Omega to Shadow. Shadow laughed because he could see the police far behind him, giving up and going to look for an easier criminal.
Now, said Shadow, let's go to Silver's house.
Shadow drove the car fast to Silver's house on the other side of the city, and when he got there, he braked the car so hard that the sound it made was like hearing the world's largest bird get punched in his tummy. Shadow honked that horn, and when he finished honking the horn, Silver jumped out of the window and onto the street and into the side seat of Omega.
Hey, Shadow. Thanks for the ride,
said Silver.
Cool curtains you put up.
Shadow laughed and said,
No problem. Now, if I do not hurry up by driving fast, you'll be late for the play.
Silver said,
Do not worry. We will get there in time.
Silver was another big role in the play, but he was not a huge gay like Charmy Bee. Silver was kind of like Sonic, but less fast. Sonic also had the best morals, but maybe Silver dressed better. But that was kind of gay too. Silver did have his big hair thing on the front that looked like a marijuana, though, so maybe Sonic was better at being stylish anyway. It is hard to tell because Silver lived in the city, which was kind of far away from high school. Shadow stepped on the gases, and the car went away through the city, into the moonlight, and towards out of the city to the high school. Sonic High School, Chapter 14. Sonic and Amy got to high school and went to the play, which was at the school. When they got to the auditorium, they were not expecting to be surprised, but they were, because the auditorium was actually full of men and women idiots still waiting to see the play. Cool young people, such as high school students, did not come to see the play unless they had to. The place was so full that Sonic and Amy had to sit in bad seats surrounded by strangers that could have been dirty or usually did crime. Sonic looked around the place and saw Rouge and Knuckles Jr., who was a baby, sitting really by the door, out, and Tails and Cream all the way on the other side, which is where they probably would have sat anyway, because Tails hated Sonic to the sky. Sonic also saw Shadow standing around places, but he did not get in a seat because he was too bad for that.
We're at the play now,
said Amy to Sonic, even though she was surrounded by people who were neither of them.
I wonder when it will begin. It going to start soon,
said Sonic back to Amy.
What I am wondering is not that, but it is if Charmy is going to mess up big time because he was been acting all weird all week. I bet you he will,
said Sonic. Laughed about this because he did not really matter to him, but it did to Charmy. The play they were doing was The Christmas Story, even though it was not Christmas time, but they thought it was a good idea anyway. In the play, Silver played Joseph, who was Jesus' dad. Charmy played Mary because even though he was not a girl, everyone thought he was anyway. Baby version, Jesus was going to be played by Knuckles, who was fitted for the role now that he was a baby. Sonic and Amy sat patiently in the seats they were in, even though Sonic could have been out running around. Sonic Sonic waited by rubbing Amy's leg and seeing how close he could get his hand to her vagina before she rubbed him off. Sonic determined that Amy was prime and ready for sex because her vagina felt hard and loose as far as he could tell when he would get close to it with his hand before the play began. He almost forgot totally that he had a deadly ball disease. The play eventually started, and it was just as gay as you thought it would be. There was singing and songs, but otherwise, it was just like the Christmas story always was. Mary got a letter from an angel saying she was going to have a baby. But she did not want to have the baby at home because the king would not let babies vote. So Mary and Joseph rode bikes all the way from London to Jerusalem. When they got to there, the hospital was so full, so they went to a barn and had the baby in there. And it turned out to be the legendary hero, Jesus. Through the whole play, Silver did a really good job, and Charmy did an okay job, but everyone sure believed he was a woman, because his voice was so high, and girls. Then they got to the ending where Mary was to have her baby out. Mary flipped onto her front, and Joseph pulled Jesus out of her butt, which looked totally fake. Sonic could tell, even with special effects. Joseph held Jesus up to show God, and then gave him to Mary, who was actually Charmy. Charmy looked at Jesus, Knuckles, really close, and then reached out into his clothing with the hand that was not holding him and pulled out a knife.
"Time to get murdered,"
said Charmy as he started to kill Knuckles. Just as he began to do this, Silver bodily flew into them and knocked Knuckles up and away from Charmy.
"Oh my god, what is happening?"
said Amy, who was startled hard.
"Charmy is trying to kill Knuckles." "Obviously,"
said Sonic to Amy. It was true, and people started to be yelling and screaming. Just then, a gunshot came from back of the audience. Shadow pulled out his gun from his spot and aimed it at Charmy Bee from the back of the audience. Shadow fired his gun and the bullet hit his head, but he must have been wearing a gunproof helmet, because the bullets from the gun went off his head and up into the ceiling, where it hit a light and the light fell down, along with other things. Something from the ceiling fell into the back of the stage, where the props were, and one of the props was a bomb that they used for some things. The prop was a real bomb, though, and when the thing hit, the bomb exploded. The bomb exploded with a huge explosion, like a bunch of horses made of fire running through the place. Suddenly, people did not really care about the play anymore because the place was full of fire and could kill you. Rouge and Knuckles Jr. already got out quick right away because they were by the door. Sonic looked and saw Amy next to him was almost unconscious because all of the fire and smoke and shocking things. Sonic picked her up and ran out of the auditorium with his fast speed. Sonic found Rouge and Knuckles Jr. outside of the hallway where it was safe.
"Are you okay?"
said Rouge.
"Knuckles Jr. predicted that this would happen, so we sat by the door so we could get out easy."
"Yes, we are okay,"
said Sonic.
"Amy here is going into a shock attack, but it is nothing she will not get over."
Sonic looked around and saw people running out, but there was a lot of other people still stuck in the auditorium, and some of them were fainted. People were leaving and not helping the other people get out, but the lunch lady, who had ears but was deaf, was running into the auditorium and carrying women and children back out. The lunch lady lived in Mongolia by herself as a child and became very strong from carrying trees back from the frozen forests to the villages that she traveled between, so now she could carry stacks of people. Since she was deaf, all of the noises that the fire was making did not bother her because she could not hear. Sonic saw the lunch lady bring out cream, but Tails was not being brought out because he was not a woman or child. Sonic thought,
Damn, he is still my friend.
Sonic swallowed his scary feelings and ran into the burning auditorium to Tails, who was passed out in the front. Sonic picked up Tails and brought his body outside to the hallway and began doing CPR on his body. Sonic thought,
this will look gay.
But it did not matter because Tails was still his friend. Sonic pushed on his body and started kissing him to give him life again. Sonic kept kissing and Amy and Rouge and Knuckles Jr. watched him as he kissed Tails' face, but Tails was not waking up.
Sonic,
said Shadow over on the side.
Charmy Bee escaped and is running through the school like a murderer now. Stop CPR kissing Tails. You have to help us catch him.
Then Silver gave Knuckles to Rouge and said,
he is safe now, but he needs to sleep.
Rouge was so happy she could have kissed him, but did not. Sonic looked and said,
Amy, finish doing CPR on Tails. I will let you and will not get jealous.
Sonic kissed her mouth and felt one of her boobs and ran off with Shadow and Silver to go catch the guy who was trying to kill baby Knuckles that was now running around the school and could danger them all. Sonic High School, Chapter 15. Shadow and Silver ran ahead into the school, but Sonic stopped to go to the bathroom and he took an enormous, bad-smelling poop. Sonic knew he must be very emotional because this poop was so big that when he tried to flush the toilet, the big poop log just folded in half and clogged the toilet easily while looking like part of a really fat pretzel that you would get at the mall, not like the little ones in bags from the supermarket. Sonic just said, "Forget it," and ran out. Forget it, and ran out of the now very stinky bathroom and after Charmy Bee. Sonic passed Shadow and Silver, who were in different hallways and going different ways, but he did not pass them at the same time because they were in different hallways, and because even though Sonic was very fast, he could not actually be in two different places at the same time. Sonic went one way, and Shadow went the other way, and Silver went another other way, and it kept happening. One room that Sonic looked in was the art room. It made Sonic remember having art class with Charmy Bee. Charmy could not control his gay urges like everyone else, and used all the colors in every picture, where like Sonic just used blue, and Amy just used pink, and other people were also normal like that. Sonic thought about how this was and that it was still surprising that Charmy could do something like this. Shadow went into a room among other rooms. That was the car fixing room. Shadow remembered about how he had car fixing class with Charmy and how Charmy was really terrible at fixing cars because it was not in him to do something that was like a man would do. Shadow thought it was weird how Charmy could now do something that was so manly, like killing. And one room that Silver ran into was the gym room, where Silver one time had gym class with Charmy Bee. He remembered how Charmy was positively the worst at sports and being an athlete, so it made him wonder why Charmy could do something that was actually doing something, like killing. Sonic and Shadow and Silver ran around, and eventually they just got tired and could not find Charmy at all. Charmy was trying to be a murderer, but they were just tired of looking for him, so they sat down in chairs and didn't do anything else now. Back in the front of the school, Amy decided that she needed to go to the bathroom. Rouge went with her because she had to go too, and Cream stayed with Knuckles and Knuckles Jr. and Tails, who was still trying to become awake. Most people had left the school by now, but there were still some waiting to get into the women's room. But Amy and Rouge did not feel like waiting in line, so they just went to the men's bathroom, where normally it was that the people inside were men. Amy and Rouge were not men, so this was against the rules. As soon as Amy opened the door, a super-powered smell hit her in the face. It punched her right in the nose because it was Sonic's poop smell.
"Oh my God," screamed Rouge. "What is that smell?" "I have heard this smell 1,000,000 times before,"
said Amy to Rouge, who could say this because she was Sonic's girlfriend, meaning that she has been around Sonic pooping.
"This smell is Sonic's poop."
Amy and Rouge went into the bathroom anyway because you could never get a break when it comes to going to the bathroom. No matter what, you will always end up going even if you try not to at all night. They were holding their hands above their noses, and then Amy opened up a stall door, and inside was a shocking thing to see, but she saw it anyway. It was Charmy Bee.
"Ah, it's you!"
screamed Amy in a scared and shocked way.
"You're a murderer."
Not yet,
said Charmy,
but now I will start to be by killing you.
Charmy jumped at her from inside the stall and into Amy, and they fell back, and Charmy was on top and holding a knife and was about to cut Amy apart when Rouge came over and kicked Charmy and flew her off her body and over to the wall by rolling.
"Take this,"
said Rouge, and she flapped her bat wings at Charmy to push all of the horrible poop air at him. It all went to him, but then Charmy got up and ran right at Amy with his knife and cut her on the legs because he is short, and then jumped back.
"Oh,"
said Amy.
"I'm dying."
Amy fell backwards and got dizzy.
"No, stay with me," said Rouge. "Use your special move while you can."
Amy knew what Rouge was talking about, so Amy used her special attack. Amy shouted,
"Girl blood!"
and opened her legs, and a stream of blood shot at Charmy. Since Amy was so good at being nice and caring, which is using her heart, Amy was able to speed up her heart so fast that her blood pumped out of the wound on her legs like a super soaker filled up by vampires. The blood hit Charmy in the face and body and all over, really, and it was steaming and burning him, but he looked like he didn't care. Amy looked shocked and yelled,
"How can you be so invincible?"
Then Rouge said,
"I bet he can't handle my special attack, Romance Bite."
Rouge flew with her bat wings and went over to Charmy and bit him right in the neck, using her fangs, and tried to make him fall in love with her. But it did not work.
"It is not working," cried Amy. "He must have superpowers. He is going to kill us for sure."
Amy and Rouge tried to get away from Charmy, but he kept blocking them and coming at them with the knife. They were finally trapped in the corner, holding on to each other with their best-in-show boobs, pressing up against each other and looking like the sexiest Legos ever. Then, all of a sudden, Tails came into the bathroom and threw a piece of electronics at Charmy. Charmy looked up at Tails and said,
"But you are supposed to..."
And then he died right there. Tails went over to Amy and Rouge and definitely stopped for a second to check out their boobs, without them knowing. But then he stopped and said,
You are safe now.
That was not.
That was not Charmy B. It was a robot. A robot? How did you know?
Said Amy. Tails, being smartest, thought it was a question for idiots, but said,
I know. I knew as soon as Charmy was not being hurt by Sonic's poop stink. I was watching from the door. Normally, Charmy would have complained and passed out from smelling that, but he did not, so I knew. And as soon as that happened, I ran and went and got a robot killer device from my electronics.
Wow, thanks,
said Amy and kissed Tails on the cheek for a reward.
Really, Tails? You saved us,
said Rouge and kissed Tails on the other cheek. This shows you that you can be cool by being smart. Except if you're a nerd ass. Tails and Amy and Rouge walked out of the bathroom and back to where Cream and Knuckles Jr. was. And then Sonic and Shadow and Silver came back and they were all back together. The lunch lady was the only other person still there, and she saw how tired they looked, so she made them all a bunch of chow meat sandwiches, and they all ate until their tummies were gonna burst. All the time while they were eating, though, Sonic thought,
but then, where is Charmy? And where is the guy who made the robot? And so many other things. High school drama is just so crazy to be a part of.